Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to analyze the live price action for EU and DXY to see what day trading opportunities there may be today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. So starting at the daily, as always, we have EU on the top, DXY on the bottom. So what can we see on the daily chart? Of course we have our bearish leg and we mitigated partially the daily POI. We had the bullish engulfing day, bullish closeout on Wednesday. Now yesterday we had a bearish pullback, so you can see from this wick up here, after taking some buy side liquidity likely above these highs, we had a bearish day. So we partially mitigated this daily fair value gap even more, took some buy side liquidity by the looks of it, and had a bearish close. Now we didn't engulf that previous candle, but we had a bearish day. Now today so far, and clearly overnight in Asia, we had further bearish price action. We've reached down, taken sell side liquidity or mitigated possibly a POI somewhere in the lower time frames, and now we've had this bullish reaction from it. So London's sort of just beginning soon, and we've already reached down, taken sell side liquidity during Asia and overnight, and now we are having some sort of bullish reaction from there. Now all of this just from the daily, we'll see that on the lower time frames, but we've created a long low test type wick. We still have a fair value gap to fill here. We're still in the discount of this daily leg with a large imbalance up here in the premium anyway. And then inversely on DXY, we obviously did the same thing. We had a bullish closeout after taking sell side liquidity, partially mitigating this daily POI, so they're synced in that way. And we've reached up this morning. We've obviously taken our previous daily high, previous daily low, taken buy side liquidity here, and we're having some sort of bearish reaction. Again, we still have some daily fair value gap here and a large imbalance down here with an order block. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see if that tells a better story. So here on the 4 hour, we see our bullish run here from Wednesday and our bearish, so at the moment, pullback from Thursday. Our previous 4 hour closed out as a low test, so maybe we've taken some sort of buy side liquidity, or we're stalling at this area because price is refusing to go lower. Maybe there's a 1 hour POI. Obviously we're on the 4 hour, but as you can see, these candles gradually getting smaller and the last 4 hour closing as a low test. We have internal higher high. As you can see, we're in the discount of this leg. Now I wouldn't call this like a 4 hour reversal. This more shows the structure that's on the 1 hour, of course, but let's say it's an internal bullish leg, and clearly we've pulled back, we've mitigated something down here, and price is closed out higher towards the open. Now what does this mean? And I'll show you again on the 1 hour because it may be clearer. When price makes a higher high like this, a new structure, pulls back, doesn't make a lower low, this high can become a weak high, right? Because this high didn't create a lower low, right? So this low creates a new high, so it's a strong low if it gets rejected, and then this becomes the weak high. So we still have around our equilibrium area, daily fair value gap on 4 hour POI that can attract price. Price obviously being in the discount after all of this bearish price action should be seeking out more of a premium, right? Price doesn't like leaving behind these imbalances, but we can't predict when they're going to fill them. Just at the moment, we've got some early indication, especially internally, of an internal bullish trend that looks like it's about to start internal to this bearish leg here. So I think the 4 hour currently looks good for a rejection of these lows and a possible weak high. We have some small imbalances on the way which may serve as resistance, but ultimately we've taken that sell side liquidity and we're probably going to seek out some buy side liquidity and continue making some structure. On DXY it's the same. You know, we've broken below this low internally, we've pulled back, taken some buy side liquidity above these highs, and this may become a weak low and price may target that weak low, being drawn to its daily fair value gap on 4 hour POI. So I think that's enough said about the 4 hour. So let's go down to the 1 hour. What I believe to be the 1 hour leg from this point here to this point here, so you can see with these lines, this is the discount, this is the premium. Now yesterday I pointed out some POIs at this level here up in the premium that may have rejected price. It didn't. So we didn't see that order flow come in for us to trade higher. Price went way down to the extreme to the discount, which isn't a bad thing now. So we can trade now if we're bullish from a discount. what we can see is there's an order block here, right? Because from down here where we swept that internal liquidity and then began to go higher, taking out the previous highs. So this is why I see this as the leg. We have an order block here. We've now come down into this area. We've not made that lower low. We're rejecting this low here in this discount of this old order block, and price is beginning to look bullish. So that seems to be what's holding price here. Now yesterday, of course, we had taken out all these buy side liquidity highs. There's an order block up here, but we also swept above it into this 1 hour imbalance and partial of the daily fair value gap, and that gave us the buy side liquidity sponsor to come down bearish to these lows again, at least in my opinion anyway. So now that we're at these lows, as I said, we're looking to be rejected. Now we can just look for structure on the lower time frames to continue with our structure, targeting possibly the previous daily high, which may be a week high. Inversely on DXY, similar picture. Of course, we've taken out buy side liquidity above these highs here, gone into an old 1 hour order block, and now we're turning bearish somewhat and rejecting this area, and this could be our week low. So there's not loads more to add. We have the same POIs above this possible week high to keep attracting price. We've rejected our lows in the discount now, and we're 4 minutes away from closing out a very bullish 1 hour candle. We've mitigated mostly a 1 hour imbalance here, which is driving price. So I think everything looks good to possibly trade with our new internal trend here, right? Our sort of pullback trend. We've got our new internal high on the 1 hour. So we'll see what the lower time frame shows us to see what trades we can get into. So saying that, let's go down to the M15 and see what that looks like. So if we're going with a bias of longs, on the M15 here, there's a couple of immediate opportunities that may happen in the opening of London. First, I'll point out, we've got this buy side liquidity trend line build up here, right? So all of these highs here, they all look pretty much mitigated on the lower time frame, and ultimately if that's a weak high, it's a good target. So these highs are good points of profit taking and targeting. So I think that looks good over there to the left. Now we have just in Frankfurt/London Open, of course, come and taken out this buy side liquidity above here. Now this is the Asia range high, and usually once we take that liquidity there, it will cause a pullback, and sometimes, or most of the time, it will seek the liquidity to the other side of Asia. Now that doesn't always happen. It could respect Asia. We have an order block here and a possible order block that's about to form here. So I would love this to close out bullish, really. It'd give me a better indication. I wouldn't want to trade against an obvious sweep of liquidity here where price is rejecting it, but I think we're good for a bias of longs. So I'll just run through a couple of scenarios really quickly for the longs. We have this order block showing up here, and we have this order block down here. So how I see it is this order block, of course, would be better because this is a nice inducement. This is obviously more in the discount. However, there's no clear structure shift just yet from here because the high would be up here. Now, this area here now, we've obviously made that small shallow pullback and then broken to possibly make a new high. I would prefer if this candle also closes above it. And then this order block here looks a bit better, but has the negative confluence of this order block existing below it with imbalance. So price may want to feel that. Price after taking this buy side liquidity of Asia, the cycle would usually make it come to the other side of Asia. So that is definitely a negative confluence, but that might be kind of balanced out by this. If we go down to DXY, this order block here on DXY, which represents this order block here on EU, is mitigated, right? We pulled back to it. We kind of failed to make a high with this one. So this may not be the decisional order block. It may not need to go to it. So this order block may have its doubts, right? Because DXY has mitigated it, DXY may not actually come back that far as well to care about it. So we may actually respect this order block that DXY also has, which is not mitigated. So that's one thing to think about when considering those options. And I think if we have a good close above this, it makes this order block look better. So I don't want to bang on about that for too long to stretch this video out too much, but yeah, there's advantages and disadvantages to both of them. So let's run with the example that we're going to go from here. If we have this nice close, price could pull back nice and correctively, you'd prefer, mitigate this POI, and then continue higher. We would have our breaker structure, of course, around this area. We would have our possible inducement from the pullback around here, and then we could set our order at this order block or somewhere in the imbalance, depending on what you prefer. Stop loss just below the low, right? It's a healthy stop loss on the M15. So maybe the M5 might look better, but it doesn't matter. And you can target 3% or ultimately the highs, if that's what suits you. Again, of course, this could happen down here. That's the danger of it. If price comes down here though, it may sweep. So there's always the chance of a continuation, right? We could let these go. There's no need to actually trade from here. You can also wait for the order flow to come in for price. Again, it could come out and do this. And again, we could get a pullback from somewhere above here. Nice pullback to hopefully a lower time frame POY it's left behind, and also trade up, right? Because then we would have our breaker structure above this high here. We would have our pullback with inducement possibly around here, and then it may leave behind some sort of imbalance or order block there for you to set your order from. And then you can be trading knowing the fact that order flow is present. We've definitely, made two higher highs, right, on the M15. This area held. Now we've broken again, and we've had our same pullback to our low time frame order block to trade above, and we have our possible inducement here, because you can't see it, to go and trade with. Stop loss just below lows, smaller stop as well, obviously, and you can trade up. So you can wait for this possible scenario from either one of these if you want it to be sure. So that's what I see for buys. So I think those could be some good scenarios that we see this morning. For sells, I'd want the order flow to change. I couldn't get involved yesterday. Nothing really presented for my plan, how I trade. So couldn't get involved in the sells or any sort of buying action, obviously, because there was none. So let me remove all of this and we can discuss some possible shorting scenarios. Now to short price, it'd probably be best if we see price do what it's doing here, mitigating this buy side liquidity, and then break structure. Then we could possibly see some sales coming in, because we could, let's just say we assume price is done with its bullish run here and it wants to continue with that bearish trend. All right, so it's taken buy side liquidity, broken down strongly, negative of this, of course, right? There is this negative here, because once we mitigate that, now we could continue bullish. So price does that, pulls back, we've got our inducement possibly here, break of structure below here, order block or fair value gap around this area, and you set your order to go short from here. So this makes sense, but again, because of this negative and the fact that we held these lows before, you may want to just wait for that confirmation trade. And what would that look like? That would be this price pulling back from here. It's made its new break of structure and lower low. We would have our break of structure around this area again, right? Because now we've broken down twice. Break of structure here, gone up, then gone down, break of structure again here. And then now we've pulled back. We have possible inducement around this area or higher, doesn't really matter. Order block around this area from the lower time frame from the previous trade. And then we can short from here, stops just above the high, and target a continuation there. Now that's if that just happens from here. Like this is just a scenario of me showing the order flow changing. That can happen up at the top here, of course. So it's the same thing. If the order flow switches and shows bearish intention, then yes, we can get into a short trade. Right, just because price is around here is why I'm showing it here. We're much better off things like this happening in a premium when they've swept buy side liquidity from these areas, right? So buy side liquidity, of course, would have been swept from here, just to make that clear. So that's how I see things forming, right? It doesn't necessarily need to happen today around here. We're still valid possibly for longs around this area as well. But again, if we want to confirm and be more sure of ourselves, we wait for the continuation trades that I showed. So I hope that was clear. I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comment. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.